Michelle, do a quick introduction. Who are you? What do you do?
Yes, I'm a human being, first and foremost. I'm a kinesiologist by trade. I guess now I'm a fiance. I'm a dog mama. And yeah, I've been working with women for 10 years, in clinical practice for 10 years, and really narrowed my focus to helping women become stronger, more confident, and pain-free over the last 4 years through my coaching practice, Pivot Your Wellness, which you're very familiar with.
Yes.
So that's the impact I'm having in the world right now at this point in my life. And I'm just so happy about life right now.
And I'm loving that. I'm loving that for you. We've been working together for a full year now.
Yes.
Which is so crazy. And I can definitely attest to getting more clarity, gaining confidence, gaining personal power since I've been working with you. Like I remember those first few sessions last year. I was like so anxious about the business and we just started. I didn't know if we were getting clients in. And I feel like a completely different person after working with you for a year.
Oh my gosh, that's remarkable. I'd love to hear from your perspective, like, what do you feel was the most impactful in your coaching experience?
I think the thing that's so interesting about you, Michelle, and about the work that you do is you are so unconventional in the way that you approach our sessions. Like you do a little bit of movement coaching, there's a whole lot of therapy I think that goes into, and I know you're not a registered therapist or anything, but I think there's some facilitation for better mindfulness practices and better mindfulness connections. But I also think you tap into things specifically for women that are not necessarily looked. Like I remember in one of the first sessions that we worked together, I was having a whole bunch of anxiety around like housework, and we narrowed that down to the fact that I need to know where my next meal is coming from, or I have anxiety. So that means I need frozen meals in the fridge. I would have never found that if I had gone to a traditional therapist or maybe worked with a man instead. So I think your ability to hone in on like the female experience is so profound and makes you just phenomenal to work with.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that because yes, I'm a health and movement coach. There's so much that impacts our day-to-day life that it's hard to just say, we're going to focus on squatting today. It's no. Like, for instance, one client yesterday, she's recovering from tendonitis in her foot. She's, Michelle, I've been resting it. It's not getting better. And it's been a few weeks. And that's strange for it to take that long to heal. So we started talking about how stress impacts the healing process. And she's just, oh, yeah, work has been a shit show. And she's, yeah, I just thought I'm sitting at my table doing work and I'm resting and that's enough. And it's talking about how sleep, stress, our nutrition all impacts the healing mechanisms in our body, I think is often overlooked when we're trying to manage pain or feel stronger and feel, you talked about personal power too, really being able to step into that highest version of ourselves. That's most likely a moving target most of the time. We're always trying to be better. So I'm glad you felt that holistic perspective of what coaching can feel like and how when we focus on certain things in our health, you notice the ripple effect in your business, right?
100%. I think particularly for women, there's so many pieces of our lives that are so intertwined. You cannot treat one piece. You have to treat the system. And I think that's where Pivot Your Wellness really comes into play. It's skill stacking. Like you do a little bit of everything when you work with a client. And that's from my personal experience working with you. And that I think is very unusual because I think a lot of professionals, they get their educated degree and then live within that field and live within the confines of that field. But I feel like you are really good at pushing what is traditionally accepted. How did that start? What made you look into your profession and say, there's more we can be doing, there's more topics that we can touch on?
Yeah, you actually used a really cool term I haven't heard before. You said skill stacking. And for anyone listening, that's such a beautiful phrase or term to use because most of us weren't taught how to take care of ourselves, right? It's a skill to, self-care is a skill. For anyone that's listening who is maybe feeling like they're walking through mud or feeling stuck with their health, just remember, it's skill development. It takes time, it practice, intentions, implementation. So I love that you shared that. And the second thing I wanted to allude to is scope of practice. So as a kinesiologist, yes, my forte is in movement. I went back to college for a post-grad certificate in wellness coaching. I know a lot about behavior change and psychology, and when something does maybe teeter on the end of, okay, there's something in the past that must be unpacked, I have people on my team, like a psychotherapist, even dietetics, right? Dietitian, energy healers that I refer my clients to. I know what that limit is, and being able to invite clients in a way where, hey, this belief you're having, is it serving you or is it not serving you? What would be different if you had a different belief, right, in your life? So there's different ways to navigate, use the word facilitate. And I love that. I love that, being able to stay within that scope still. You asked where it's all started?
Yeah. How'd you get here?
I am so grateful. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 14 years old. I had a grade 8 teacher that really encouraged me to try out for shot put. Do you know shot put?
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah. And I was just like this scrawny girl, and I laughed at my teacher. I'm like, there's girls that are so much stronger than me. Regardless, I really did it for her. I tried out at school and I made it to the local meet, and I was so scared because I'm like, I know my butt is going to get kicked. There's definitely stronger girls at 14 years old. So I started lifting weights in my basement. My dad was a bodybuilder and growing up, and I just started using those weights, and I felt so empowered and I felt stronger. I was performing better in soccer, in school, and lifting weights for me was a form of personal empowerment, yes, and also physical empowerment. To feel capable as a woman, holy smokes.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
When you can lift something and you can like physically move something, I definitely found that when I started doing a little bit more weight training as well, it definitely unlocks a piece of confidence that you don't have if you're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being able to rely on your body. I think that's a big thing that people underestimate.
Yeah. And we can say things or build these stories in our minds saying, oh, I won't be able to lift that. I got to ask for help. Or I don't have the mobility to do that. And I don't want people to have those stories and like decrease function over years and years. What I did is after high school, I took all the courses, exercise science, nutrition, phys ed, and I was like, kinesiology, that's the route. Loved the program, volunteered so many places, from community health centers and chronic disease programs, physiotherapy clinics, even sports summer camp, because I was like, do I want to work with kids? Like, you name it, I've probably worked in it. And then straight out of university, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a business. I've helped people in my volunteer experience. So I built a gym in my basement. We still had the leftover dumbbells. I started inviting people that I knew through my volunteer experiences and even family and friends to start working out. I did that for about 8 months and realized, hey, yeah, as an entrepreneur, I think I was 19 at the time, there's still a lot I needed to learn. Even though I started working at 12 years old being a paper girl. So ever since then, I've been on this pursuit of learning more about movement and overall wellness. Went back to school. And then I realized with my experiences with knee surgery, sciatica, inflammation, I had acne, just understanding how hormones work for women and healing myself. I was like, I think I know what I want to do, of going deeper with working with women. And that's why I birthed Pivot Your Wellness.
No, I think birth is an accurate term. I think there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into growing a business, similarly to, I've never had a baby, so I don't know, but growing a baby.
Yeah.
So I think it's an accurate term, and I think the care and attention that women take towards a business is very maternal. Very maternal.
Yes. Yeah. It's right now, Pivot Your Wellness is my baby. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And the reason why I wanted to support women, because everywhere I worked, I saw the gaps. I saw what clinics were doing very well, even some of the gyms I was working at. And I'm like, ooh, it would really hit the spot if we did this, or had this level of personalization, or access to this support between sessions. Yeah, I saw the gaps and I saw the strengths, and I built my own 4-month women's health and movement coaching program. And some clients continue after that. Some clients are like, Michelle, you've taught me so much. I'm good. I need time to integrate. And that's what we're doing right now, is just one-on-one clients is my favorite thing to do. And then I also run group classes in person. So
let's go back to 19-year-old Michelle. That is very young to start a business. What was going through your mind at that point? What was going through your heart? What were you feeling?
I was so excited. Because I was just such in awe of how movement helped me in so many ways, like prepping for surgery, rehab, my mental health, my emotional health. People will say in my family, Michelle, you're such a happy kid. And it comes down to self-care. If you are nourished, our baseline, we're meant to be content and joyful, right? So if something is off, and I've definitely had dark times in my life, like very dark times, and we can go there if we want. I have always seen movement as a launch pad, right? When you're stuck in the hole, movement always helped me crawl back out there. So I was excited, definitely. And then also imposter syndrome. I don't like to call it imposter syndrome, imposter experience, right? I was 19 years old, fresh out of university, thought I had a decent knowledge base. And then when I started working with people, there was so much that came up around different conditions that I had a little bit of experience with, and not a lot. And I've been in this field for 10 years now, so I definitely have built my experience working with different populations. Excited, a little bit of imposter, and I just knew the mission. I was like, I know this is going to be good for the world.
It's so interesting because we often see, we work a lot with entrepreneurs just in the nature of our business. And we often see two types of entrepreneurs who are using business as a vehicle to support and facilitate something else, which is, I think, what you're doing. You're not here to do business. You're here to do this health and wellness coaching, and business is the vehicle that you're using. And then we see business owners who business is what they want to do, and then whatever the actual thing that they do is the vehicle. So I would say I'm more like, I want to do business. I want to be an operator. I use Social Launch Labs and filming as the thing that allows me to be an operator. So a little bit on the opposite ends of the entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I think being able to have the mental clarity about where you want to go and what you want your business to be is very important. Take me through the timeline. So you start your business at 19. You are
31
now. That's 11 years of business. Where did you go from there? I know at one point you moved from Toronto to Calgary. You had different programs. You facilitated different things. What did that look like? Let's start at 19 and talk about the business growth.
I feel like I need to go to my LinkedIn account right now and make sure it's all accurate just when I relay it to you. 19, finished my kin degree. Oh, I worked in the field for a couple years, and I remember there's this one client, no matter what we did, she wasn't getting results. Now, her level, or indication rather, of results was, am I losing weight? And I knew deep down there was more we could do on the psychological behavior change side, and then also improve her relationship to movement and body, because she was a figure skater and there were certain images with that sport that were really encouraged because it's also an aesthetic sport, which is a whole nother conversation we can go down, because I think all bodies are so beautiful and it's all about the art of movement. And this one client, I knew I could help her more. So I went to Humber College in Etobicoke, and I did the wellness coaching program the first year it ran. So we were guinea pigs. Learned so much more about behavior change and psychology, motivational interviewing, appreciative inquiry, all of these, even CBT, all of these counseling type of techniques. And out of that, I was so grateful. I was an intern at a health tech company, a health coaching company, and we were coaching people virtually. We worked with CAMH, Heart and Stroke Foundation, even the military, to help people build healthier habits. And through that, I really excelled at that position, and they offered me a full-time salary position. So I was there for 4 years. And between all that, my mental health, not during the health tech portion, before that, I was experiencing suicide ideation because I wasn't really sure. I knew I was so passionate about health. I just wasn't sure where I was going. And there was some family stuff going on. I had to move out. And that was a beautiful thing because I did schooling outside of my house, my family home, for college. And then I got this health tech job. And then pandemic hit. And I felt that depression coming up. I saw the Dark Spaces show. And I was already building Pivot Your Wellness on the side because I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I don't do well with rules. I don't do well when things take a long time, especially on the health tech side. You put something on the wish list for enhancements and it takes like years to develop. I knew I could do things quicker, more efficient, and more impactfully. And I learned so much about content development, speaking, presentations, leadership in that role that I truly felt equipped. Left that job. Well, I was actually moved to a contract position as Pivot Your Wellness was growing so I could supplement my income. It was taking a little bit slower to grow, so I ended up, through someone I was supervising, a master's student at that health tech company, reached out to me and offered me a position at Cleveland Clinic. Have you heard of that?
No, I'm not familiar.
It's like the Mayo Clinic, obviously born in Cleveland, Ohio, and there's 2 locations in Toronto. There's a downtown and midtown. So I was working at both in the movement performance program, the executive health program as well. And again, I was learning the ins and outs of healthcare. This is privatized healthcare. So it's like a premium service. So I was getting ideas on how I can make my program more premium because I was noticing clients get better results when they have the highest amount of care. And then I hit a point where I was like, okay, I want to move to the West Coast. I had done a business retreat the year before. I did some breath work, got high on my own supply with oxygen and breath work, and I saw mountains, and I was like, I need to move there. So I did 2 scary things at once. I moved to Calgary without ever visiting and went full-time in my business. So I've been here for 2 years now. And
We both moved to Calgary around the same time.
So it must have been July 2023 for you?
We were January of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, so about 6 months before you.
Yeah. And I'm sure you love it. You're still here?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
do love it. I think the pace is very different than Toronto, and the lifestyle is different.
Oh, yeah. There's so much nature. That's why, folks, that's why you see mountains here.
Yeah. So you move to Calgary. You go full-time in your business, and you're like, okay, I'm a full-time business owner. I'm doing this. What was that like? What were some of the thoughts and the feelings that were coming up in those moments?
Okay. Y'all remember how I said I was scared? Sorry, I was excited about starting a business initially. I was really scared when I got here because honestly, I was living off loans and credit cards to supplement the income I was making to a point where I got my first collections call. And
Oof.
It's scary. It's scary because I've always been amazing with money. I've always had a safety net when I started my business. And to get that call was very scary and just encouraged me to keep trucking along. Obviously, like I'm in a different financial position right now, and I'm so grateful for that. I just knew there was no plan B. Because if I had a plan B, Pivot Your Wellness wouldn't have succeeded. So I was very scared, and I also had so much faith and conviction that I was doing the right thing.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you get the excitement, like, yeah, I'm going to start a business. And then you start the business and you realize how hard it is to A, create a product that is good, or create a service that is good.
Yeah.
B, then you have to figure out how to market it and sell it. And then C, you have to fulfill that. That is a huge skill gap. There's a lot of other skills that you have to learn about being an operator rather than just being like a facilitator.
Yeah, and talking about skills, I knew nothing about marketing and sales. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars in coaching and marketing schools and whatnot, and I learned so much. A lot of it is like you're out in the trenches, and that's how you learn. And that's how I like to learn. And then we talked about this before we went on air, is like leaning into our strengths about what has worked with bringing people into our circle and being able to imprint in their lives and impact them. So I like to say that the fastest way to become a more conscious human being is become an entrepreneur, because all your shit comes up of I'm not worthy, no one will pay this, or this service is not helpful. Like all of those stories come up, and you got to work through it, or else like
Your business will fail.
yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is if your business fails and you are the owner, operator, and founder, it doesn't fail because of anybody else. It fails because of you.
Yeah.
That was scary for me when we first started.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if I fold, everything folds. I can't fold. I always say the same thing to people, that if you want the best self-help book ever is starting your own business and then figuring it out.
Yeah.
If you want to fix your shit, that will show
Yeah.
you what you need to fix.
Or maybe motherhood. I think that's maybe the top.
Yeah. I'm not a mom, so I can't comment
Neither
on
am I
that
yet.
experience yet. But yeah, that one will. But
Yeah.
a lot of mothers, I think they go through and don't necessarily fix their shit and then screw the kids up.
I think we all, we'll screw our kids up to some degree. It's to what degree?
To what degree,
We're not
exactly.
perfect human beings, and I think that's what makes it so beautiful to have that experience with a child of, look at me being imperfect. We're in this together. This is what mommy did. This is what she wished she would have done, and this is how I'm going to do better. It's a lot of leadership in that too, if we have that level of self-awareness. Not everyone is there yet.
It's true.
Yeah.
When did you first start focusing exclusively on working with women?
So I started Pivot Your Wellness June 1st, 2021. And a month later, I enrolled in a business program. And they were saying like there's 3 niches. There's health, wealth, and relationships. You got to focus on one of them. And the health, a lot of them, and I didn't really jive with this business coaching program. I wish I vetted it because it was quite the investment. You need to do weight loss. You need to do weight loss. And I'm like, that's not really what I do though. I'm not a body composition coach. I think weight loss can be very scary I don't know if scary is the right word. That's what's always been around for marketing for women. And I find it very predatory. I believe in focusing on, instead of what people want to lose, what do they want to gain? So that's why I focus on strength, confidence, living with ease, pain-free. Because from my experience, that tends to be what matters most. And going full circle to that one client I was talking about who she wasn't getting results, she ended up having a very conflicting relationship with food. And she ended up in therapy to help repair that relationship with food. We still keep in touch here and there. What I realized through that experience and coaching thousands of women, and I have this on my Instagram pinned at the top of my account or my page, it's what obituaries say about women, right? So it's quite morbid. What I do every now and then, I'll search obituaries of women. What are people talking about when they're no longer here about these beautiful women we have in our life? And it's, oh, Laila always warmed up the room. She always smiled. She was very determined. Like they'll talk about qualities and traits. They won't talk about your waist, your thighs, or your arms. So I was like, if this is what people are saying when, women are no longer here, why do we put so much focus on it when we're alive? So for me, I want to see women win and experience life and not think about when they're on vacation, all the foods that they need to eat to keep their figure. Obviously, nourish your body because you want to do all those adventures potentially on vacation. There's a lot of mental taxation that happens when we're overthinking what we're wearing, how we look, how we're being perceived. And there's so many women who live in different sized bodies that can still be so confident in themselves, regardless of how we look, because that tends to be what matters most. So why women? Because I think we're badass. And I think that women deserve to hear a different message, that it doesn't have to be about weight loss or toning or sculpting. Even just saying those words, I cringe.
Yeah, they feel like 1990s.
Yeah. And I know there might be people watching this be like, oh, Michelle, well, you live in a what we call straight size body, whatever. And like I had disordered eating tendencies. I had body dysmorphia. I was bullied for being too skinny. I was told by my family I'm sick. And I overate. And that's what led to inflammation in my body. So how do we honor our bodies in a way where, this is what I coach my clients through. We'll make changes to our movement, our stress management, our diet. And our metrics of progress are going to be, are you sleeping well? What's your energy like? What's your mood like? Are you having regular bowel movements? What's the color of your pee? Like all these things. And then your weight will find the set point that it's comfortable at.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel when you are balanced, like I feel like I'm quite balanced in how I'm living right now. My weight does not fluctuate, like maybe a pound.
Yeah.
And if I'm like, I can tell if I eat a really big meal, I'll jump up 3 pounds. And not that I want to be focused on weight, but I'm like, my body feels like it's very much in homeostasis right now.
Yeah.
I'm being like, and then you just exist where you exist and you look how you look.
Yeah.
But I have energy. I do the things I need to do. My body feels strong.
Yeah.
And I think,
Heck yes. Can I give you a high five?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love hearing that.
It's so interesting because like I read, oh my God, I actually was watching this TikTok and I can't remember the name of the doctor, but she was a like orthopedic surgeon.
Yes. I know her work.
Okay.
And her name's slipping me.
And I remember she was doing this podcast and she was like breaking down in tears. And she was talking about how she will operate on women who have broken hips.
Yeah.
And when you're older, if you break your hip, you're very unlikely to walk again. Incontinence becomes a part of your life. That happens. You have a lot of UTIs, which has mental health effects.
Yeah.
And she was just crying. She's like, a lot of women come to me and they're in the hospital bed and they're like in a terrible position. I don't know how I got here. And I'm like, it's a lot of not putting yourself first and not working with yourself is how you get to a position like that. And I remember seeing that and being like, oh my God, like I don't want that to happen to me. I'm so scared to lose the ability to live the life that I want. Like I have to start not investing in myself, but working with myself.
Yeah.
Appreciate myself. I hate when you have those like little thoughts that come up and you're like, oh, you should be doing this, or you did that bad. You should be doing something better. And I'm like, girl, who's that talking?
Yeah.
Like you have to take everything as a learning opportunity. You have to self-speak, I think, is so important, how you talk to yourself. When you're working with clients, does that ever come up, and how do you facilitate that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, what that orthopedic said, probably it's the Diary of a CEO that you listened to, because I listened to that episode, and it is, and I don't know if you have aging women in your life.
Hell yeah, I got a lot of grandparents.
Yeah. And it's hard to see how they're limited. And I think perspective is helpful. Of a lot of the clients I work with, they tell me, I just don't want to end up like my mom or my grandma. And I know seeing that and hearing that doctor's voice, you said, I'm scared. And it's interesting because we could be fear-based with it, of you could fracture your hip and all that stuff, which is the reality of it. So if that motivates you in a way where it's going to create sustainable long-term change, yes. I like to focus on what you want, not what you don't want, because the universe responds to what the clarity we're putting out there. So if we're focusing on abundance and I want to be strong so I could do this, or I don't want to fracture a hip, it's okay. The universe is hearing that. Focus on what you want to be able to do. I would encourage people, and that will continue to magnetize, replicate, and whatnot. Regarding self-speech, that's another, you're so good at finding terms that I've never heard before.
I watch a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm stealing all of these terms. None of them are my own.
I'm going to take that one home with me too. Self-speech. You came to one of my workshops in person, and there was a slide that talked about languaging. And there's disempowering terms and there's empowering terms. So disempowering, you can imagine. I can't, I should, I need to, I don't have time. You can feel that. Like, for those of you listening, say I can't and finish that sentence, or I should. There's so much guilt and shame and powerlessness that comes up. Like, our cells are listening to the words we're speaking to it. And it's either going to say, oh, we're going to thrive with those, or no, we're not thriving. Versus the empowering words is, what can you do? What do you want to do? What do you plan or intend to do? If you're saying, I don't have time, what you're really saying is it's not important right now. And that's okay. That's actually empowering to say, that's not a priority. And again, if you're listening, finish those sentences. How does that feel in your body? Chances are, and I do this in sessions, we just change the wording of that, and like chest is higher, and then people say they have like more blood flowing to their arms. That's a sign of powerfulness. How I invite clients is, I'll say, that last sentence that you just said, can you repeat it? How did that feel in your body? And then they'll say, okay, well, how do you think we can change it to make it a little bit more empowering? And maybe it's not, I can squat, or I can bench 85 pounds, whatever that is. I'm in the process of getting there. If there's something a little bit not intermediate, in the interim to get there, that is going to feel more empowering and actually create action in the direction that their higher self is really craving. So it's really in the moment. We're catching that. And then in session, or out of session rather, they're more mindful of their words. I'm working with a 62-year-old woman, has had a couple knee surgeries, and I can't do that. It hurts my bad knee. So she's moralizing her joints, and I've done this too with my knee. What if we looked at it more neutrally? Maybe the affected knee, or the knee that's catching up to the other one, because again, your cells are listening to good and bad. And if we can look at things more neutrally and factually of the current state of the situation, there's less shame, there's less guilt, and there's just more expansiveness and possibility. Do you feel that, like, in the words?
Absolutely.
I know we've done a little bit of that coaching.
Yeah, 100%. I see it very interesting. My dad is really hard on himself.
Yeah.
He's very like Gen X. I have to be a man. I have to be strong. I have to do all these things. And when he struggles with things, he has a lot of negative self-talk. And I'm like, Dad, it's literally getting you nowhere. You've been talking to yourself like this for 15 years, or as long as I can remember, and nothing's changed. So you need to do something there. You should be or I would hope you would do something different to feel better. And so I noticed that like when I moved out of my parents' house as well, a lot of like patterns that my parents had, I was repeating.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are not my patterns.
Yeah.
I have an established pattern. Like I can let these go and build something for myself the way that I want to live and the way that I want to experience being in my own body and making decisions with myself. And the mind is like, when I was in university, I was in STEM programs. I started in physics and then went into computer science. I did a stint in nuclear engineering. My university experience was just a debacle in a very positive way.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of times like in the hard science where I was doing a lot of math. I was doing a lot of physics. I was doing a lot of chemistry. And it's okay, here's the variable. Here's the formula. Figure out what variables you have, what's missing, and you use the formulas. You need like X, Y, Z. And if you have all the right inputs, you get the right output. And I'm like, that is how it feels to speak to yourself. If you have all the right inputs, you get the right output.
That's really cool. I love that analogy.
It's grounded in science. It's grounded in physics. I could see it every single day when I was doing these mathematical calculations. I'm like, why would I think that I can go against the laws of physics? I'm just one mere mortal. I have a few decades on this planet, and then the universe will exist for billions of years beyond me. Yeah. What happens after we die, that's up for debate. That's a whole different podcast. But I'm like, I think there's a moment where it feels really good to realize that like I just am here for a brief moment in time and the universe is much bigger. And there are things in this world that I can't control and I don't need to. And I just have to go with the universe rather than go against the universe.
Yeah.
I want to touch on this with you. Yeah. A lot of the ideologies that you have and a lot of the phrases that you use are like woo-woo, very new age, very anti-hustle culture, if I can use that phrase. Yeah. Do you ever get resistance? I feel like what you're doing is very counter to what kind of particularly with social media, what we see in culture right now.
First of all, Laila, I want to commend you for having the courage and self-awareness to break those patterns when you moved out. Not everyone does that. So I really want to thank you for being a conscious human being.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's so interesting you say woo and counterculture because I'm trying to think of specific phrases, maybe for the audience so they can conceptualize that. What are some things you've heard me say?
Oh my gosh, there's just so many things. Like you emphasize rest a lot.
Oh, okay.
And that's very anti-hustle culture. Hustle culture is like you just work until you drop type of thing. You can sleep when you're dead. In this life, you have to suffer. Yeah. And that's not at all the way that you work or even the way that you get people to talk to themselves or you recognize like different moralizing your bad knee. From my experience, I would say that's very different from the way that most people talk to themselves and most people experience reality.
I see. Yeah. You're making me think of this quote. It says, nature does not rush, yet everything is accomplished.
Great quote.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
So you talked about hustle culture. The birds aren't in Tim Hortons drive-thru waiting for their medium double and heading to work. They're doing their thing. They're working during the day, taking rest, and everything they need is provided for them. And we live in mainly Western culture where we have the messaging of more, it's not enough, more, keep working hard. And I've been that person and I've burnt out, I've lost hair, I was literally medicating myself with wine and trying to get to work with 2 coffees in the morning, like a completely dysregulated nervous system. And my body was telling me, hey, wake up. We're not liking this. So as soon as I started leaning into those holistic practices and even the languaging of how we speak to ourselves and paying attention to how it makes me feel, I started implementing it into my coaching. And obviously I've had many coaches myself where I've learned a lot about wordsmithing, right? Of how we speak to ourselves. Honestly, the clients I work with are super coachable, very open-minded. So I always encourage being curious. So I was like, hey, maybe just try it out and see how you feel. For instance, I'll hear, especially with the older ladies I work with, oh, my balance is bad. I won't be able to do that. So I'll put in their program a cue as a reminder, a mantra of I am strong, I am rooted into the earth, and I am balanced. And I'll put a little emoji or whatever. And then they practice that. And then I look at their comments and they're like, oh my God, that actually worked. So they have proof of concept of this is woo and it works. So it's like I can talk to the cows come home about how cool this is. I think it's not meant to be explained. It's meant to be experienced. And for the open-minded folks out there that are curious about this type of work, like the languaging, I would encourage you to just try and see if those inputs you're talking about changes your outputs. Because life is just one big experiment at the end of the day.
We're all just having a good time.
Yeah,
We're just figuring it out together, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever find religion or spirituality coming up in your practice with your clients?
I'd say I'm a spiritual person, love philosophy. I don't have a religion that I'm hooked to. There's people that I work with in all religions, and when it comes to how it shows up in sessions, I'm trying to think of specific. I do work with a few men, and some of them talk about how certain foods are part of their religion or their culture, and we honor that and celebrate that in our sessions. And when it comes to philosophy, a lot of it is very, I would say, rooted in Stoicism, Stoic philosophy of, you talked about it, control what we can, let go of what we can't, just being a good human being. Yeah, I'm trying to think, it doesn't really come up, like the religious side, unless someone is fasting and we're modifying things. Yeah.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I've been seeing online when I was in high school, it was trendy to be an atheist and not believe in God and not believe in religion and all that kind of stuff. And now I think we're seeing this trend, particularly with Gen Zs, young Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, where they're turning back to religion and back to spirituality. And I'm really interested, like personally, from a personal perspective, how spirituality and religion plays into like people's day-to-day lives. And I've seen a lot of my friends as we've gotten older go back to religion. And like I can think of one friend right off the bat. His name is Denny. I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I shouted him out here, where he talks about making changes in his life. A lot of that coinciding with him becoming more religious and believing in Christ, doing all these things. And he's like a very young, hip with it kind of guy. Wouldn't traditionally think, oh, Denny's going to church every Sunday. But it's made such a shift for him. I know spirituality is very close to my practice and for other people's practice. So I'm interested. And Michelle, I'll give you a little task here.
Sure.
Over the next little while, I would be curious if you could like note down what experiences you have with people's spirituality when they come in practice and how that changes over the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'll definitely earmark that and be mindful in sessions. I believe you need to believe in something outside of yourself. Not the biggest fan of atheism, because I think when we believe in something greater than ourselves, it expands us as human beings, whatever that is, whether it be God, the universe, Allah. And I think being able to have that as a practice, all religion and philosophy does is it anchors you to principles in your life. Values, principles that you live out and abide in your day-to-day actions, because it's a part of being rooted in knowing who you are and also having the flexibility of that changing. Even certain things, like you're making me think of the spiritual aspect. So a common thing with women in menopause is frozen shoulder, adhesive capsulitis. With frozen shoulder, it almost feels like it's frozen. And there's like different phases for it to thaw out. And this one client, we were doing shoulder ranges of motions and she found a sticking point. And I was like, okay, let's hang out there and let's go in and out of it. And I want you to use your mind and tell your shoulder that I'm with you, I love you, you're safe, and we're going to get through this together. And she's been doing that. She's on her 5th month of coaching right now, and her shoulder pain's gone. There's something spiritual about that, like that connection to your body and being able to self-heal using the mind. We could go down the Joe Dispenza route too, with how we're actually more powerful than we think we are. That's spirituality. Or maybe there could be some religious component to how you nourish yourself. So I'll definitely keep an eye out on those themes in session.
Like I even think about whether you're working with your body or whether you're working as an entrepreneur, I think there's a level of faith that you have to have. Yeah. Like I often say, and I steal this quote from Laila and Alex Hormozi, that entrepreneurship is like staring into the abyss while chewing glass. And you love it.
Yeah.
But I really do feel like when you are faced with, you don't know what comes next, you have to have faith to ground yourself. And as entrepreneurs, we never know what's coming next. Everything is, as your business grows, you get new tasks, and those new tasks are things that are new to you. So you have to learn it all over again. And I feel like you're just, as my experience as an entrepreneur, I'm just in a constant cycle of doing shit that I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
And just accepting that this is fate, this is life, like this is the experience that I'm having in this moment. And I will learn how to do this. And just because I don't know how to do this right now is not a reflection of my skill set.
Yes.
I have a
To
great
separate
set of
that,
skills.
yeah, is key. And you make me think of manifestation as we talk, because if you can see it in your mind, it already exists. So what you're putting out there with what you're seeing is impacting the little actions you take throughout your day. And that influences your outcome. Like I manifested, obviously with work in between, but you're constantly reflecting on this vision you have, moving to Calgary, like my partner, this business. It can come with ease if you give yourself permission for it to come with ease. And I do that with...
I like that. And I think what's so interesting about manifestation is you can't just sit there and manifest and then boom, you just red Ferrari shows up on your driveway. But I think manifestation lays out the game plan for your actions.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're just like doing shit with no plan, you're not going to end up where you want to end up.
Yeah.
You're just going to maybe go around in circles and then go over here and then go over here. But I think manifestation is figuring out what you want and then saying, okay, this is the game plan, this is the goal. And then you'll fill in all the other pieces.
The universe will give you a little wink. So, oh, that's what you want? Oh, here's this. Even if it's just like a sign that you're on the right track. It might not be tangible just yet, but it could just be a little pep in your step that you get. And that's what the universe is really trying to serve you. But it can't serve you if you're unclear about your desires. And if your desire is, if you have thoughts of, I'm broke, I'll never be successful, the universe is being like, yeah, we'll keep feeding you that. If you think a different and you feel and you believe something different, even if you're not there yet, even with your health, I'll never get out of pain. Especially people who've had chronic pain for like decades. And it's, if we continue to think that, you will. Yeah. And are you open to thinking something different and feeling something different, believing something different? And that's what I love one-on-one coaching, because many people go through their entire lives not hearing that perspective of, oh, I won't die with pain. We're not supposed to be living in pain, folks.
That's not how this world exists.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because we age doesn't mean we're supposed to be incapacitated.
That's a big thing. Like my friends are getting around the age of 30 and oh God, as soon as you hit 25, like it all starts to go downhill. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like my body feels good when I do yoga and when I do the mobility exercise and I'm investing myself, I'm eating healthy. My body feels bad when I'm not.
Yeah.
There's a very clear correlation between how my body feels and what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people use the excuse I'm getting old to not focus on their actions.
Yeah, it renders you as powerless. And people who are 60s, 70s that I'm working with are moving some like better than some of the 30, 40-year-olds that I know. You don't have to open that door and let those stories come through about ability, about age. Yeah, there's so much you can do even with not having a lot of money. Like movement is literally free. You don't need a gym. A lot of what I coach is body weight, mobility based. And yes, we use weights, of course. We are so much stronger than the reasons we tell ourselves. And yeah, even just saying like the difference between when you feel good and when you don't feel good. And it's not because your age.
It's because of my actions.
Yeah.
I want to turn it back to entrepreneurship here for a moment.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we talk about, you work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs in general.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. We both own our own businesses. So I feel like we both have a lot of experience in that realm. What would you say are some of the most successful characteristics that you see entrepreneurs holding, or skills, let's say?
Have you watched Ted Lasso before?
Love Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Best show ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to watch it a third time. He has this saying, like, be curious, not judgmental with everything, from like the prospects that come your way or the opportunities to grow your business that come your way. Not shutting things down. It's asking more questions. I would say curiosity is huge. Willingness to learn. And I think that requires a lot of self-belief. Yeah, because your level of success is related to how much conviction and self-belief you have in what you're doing. Yeah, there's definitely more curiosity, willingness to learn, self-belief.
Yeah, I would say those are my top three as well.
Yeah, something along those lines.
You have to be curious. And I think the interesting thing about curiosity is I think it squishes the fear.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think fear comes from, I don't know what to do. And then the minute you're curious, it doesn't matter that you don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's like you ask better questions of like, how do I make this happen? Who do I need to connect with? Yeah. And I'm sure you have evidence of those traits working out for you in growing your business.
One of the best things that we ever did in our business. So when we first decided we wanted to open up a physical studio, I went to a real estate agent, a commercial real estate agent, and said, okay, this is what we need. Like, this is kind of how much space that we need. What is this going to do? What is this going to look like cost-wise? And she's like, okay, you're going to have to get a space, then you're going to have to renovate the space, then you're going to need all the construction materials. And it's going to be like between $80,000 and $150,000. I walked out of there so fast and was like, shit, I'll never be able to open up a studio. So I just put it on the back burner and kept doing the remote agency first, kept doing the remote agency work, but kept thinking, okay, how could I do it? Could I get a bank loan? I could, but I don't believe in taking on debt. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, is there any other way to do it? And for Michelle, might be 6 months that I mulled on this. 6 months that I mulled on this.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue one day, I met up with a friend for lunch who was also an entrepreneur. And she was like, why don't you think about renting a private office? And she said she had just been here at Trade Space, which is where this location is. She was looking for a warehouse space.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, they have all these private offices. Like, they just opened up. Like, it's a really nice space. Go check it out. And I was like, okay. So I checked it out, and I was like, this is it. Like, we pay $1,000 a month for this space. Yeah. So we went from $80,000 to $150,000 to $1,000, maybe $3,000 first, last, and a deposit.
Yeah.
And then boom, we could open the studio. And it took months for that just mulling. And then the universe to be like, here you go.
Yeah.
But I didn't rush it. I didn't get myself into some stupid like $150,000 worth of debt right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I think having constraints actually made me scrappier and was better for the business.
Yeah.
And because we don't have a bank loan, we've been able to run this business very scrappy.
Yeah.
Reinvest a lot of the money back into the business and grow the business consistently.
Yeah.
And we haven't, we're in our 3rd year now. Right?
Yeah.
50% of businesses die in the first 3.
Yeah. Just want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you're lending some wisdom there to even how you can apply that to health of if you have this big, hairy, audacious goal with your health, it's what would make it possible? If you wanted that 150 grand space, what would have needed to happen for you to get that? Or if maybe that's not feasible, what is feasible now? It's not shutting it down. It's staying curious. What are the possibilities? Because if life was so black and white, I think we would be
the world suck.
Yeah, life would be very different, and the gray is where the growth is.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You grow where you're slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah. And you have to be innovative and you have to be resourceful.
And that's part of being a business owner is you have to think outside of the box, and it's not, that's a skill as well. Like a lot of the things that I've learned in business is, oh, I'm bad at this. I'm not. It's just I don't have that skill yet. And you can build up that skill and get better at it. When I was in high school, I was a terrible cook. And I always thought cooking is not my thing. It's not my forte.
Okay.
I gave my cousin food poisoning on 3 separate occasions. Like,
oh, man.
It was like bad. I did not have the skills to cook. Lo and behold, halfway through my university experience, I moved out of my parents' house. I went to university where I had to live on my own. Yeah. And they didn't have enough dorm space. So I was in a house by myself, no meal plan.
Okay.
The first night, I was like, what am I going to eat for dinner?
Yeah.
And thank God my mom had packed a can of chickpeas in my bag. And that first night I ate a raw chickpeas right out of the can. And that's what I had for dinner. Mm-hmm. And it was at a moment where I'm like, I have to learn how to cook. Like, I cannot live off chickpeas for the next 8 months while I'm at university. And then boom, I did. 8 months later, I was a decent cook.
How did you get there though?
A hell of a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was also like I had a roommate as well at the time. Her name was Amber. She was really great. She was also on a cooking and healthy journey. Like, we both like to eat healthy food. We were both learning to cook. And it was really great to have someone to support. So we'd go to the groceries together and buy things. We'd share recipes. We'd cook together in the kitchen. There were meals that we threw out and got McDonald's. There was moments where this is shit. Like, we did not do, we tried something and it didn't work out, on to the next. But I think being curious about, okay, I started with pasta. You boil the water, you get pasta sauce out of a jar. Great. Yeah. I can make pasta. I can survive. Can I make that pasta sauce better? Okay, I'm going to season the pasta sauce when it comes out of the jar. And that makes my pasta better. Can I make pasta sauce from scratch? And change is so small and it makes such big results. Like, when you chase small change, that's very accessible. When you chase large change, it's impossible. You can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Again, another key piece of wisdom there is, I have this quote on my website that I came up with, is every journey isn't about a big leap. Instead, it's about a collection of pivots. And that's what you've done. If you've made these small changes, even like the pasta sauce, like that's empowering to be able to season it and just see how it tastes. And I feel like people get intimidated about that. And it can feel intimidating if you haven't been exposed to it. And there's so many resources online to cook and to, we don't need to be like Chef Ramsay. It's just, can we be 1% better? Because it's also very empowering knowing what's going in our food. Yeah. And how do we get people, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is like, how do we get people enticed by the long game with health or with anything in life?
Michelle, that's so interesting because I always think about like, how did I end up owning a business? Like we started the business when I was 24, so fairly young as well. You started your business very young. How did I end up running a business so early? And I'm like, it's because I always knew I was going to be running a business.
Yeah.
But where did that come from? My mom, in her infinite wisdom, was like the business version of a hockey mom.
Yeah.
So from when I was like 2 or 3 years old, she's like, you're going to need these skills to be a CEO one day, and I'm going to teach you these skills, and this is the vision that I have for you. And so I grew up like thinking that I was going to be a CEO. And like my mom's thing was like, you have to come to all these events with me and learn how to public speak and learn how to speak to CEOs and shake hands and kiss babies. And she literally, I remember being like 3 or 4 years old. She's like, okay, you're going to come to this gala, this charity gala with me, and you're going to shake hands and kiss babies. And I was like, I am a baby.
Oh.
But that vision, thank God for my mom, she instilled that in me really early on. As I got older, I got to that end point very differently than how she wanted me to get to that end point.
Okay.
And so I got to this point where I was like, okay, this is the trajectory that has been laid out for me by my mom, thankfully. She's given me all these skills to go this way and go this route. That's not the route for me. But I have the right skill set to go a different way. And so my mom always wanted me to go the corporate route, climb the corporate ladder, become a CEO that way. I was like, hell no, not doing that. Yeah. Corporate's not my vibe. I'm going to open my business. Yeah. And I had a great partner who supported me in that. Yeah. And still supports me to this day to be able to do this endeavor. But I still had that skill set. Yeah. And I think back to when I was in university, because I really struggled in university. It took me 6 years to graduate. I was not a good student. I did not graduate with a great GPA. I'll be honest about that. But there was a period where I lost it, and I lost who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And the only way I got out of that was I sat my ass down on a yoga mat. I did yoga, and then I meditated. And having those moments, there was nothing else for me to do but think and be stuck with myself. Okay, this is where I am now. I don't want to be here. I don't feel good. I don't like this. Where do I go? If my life wasn't this, what would it look like? And I kept coming up, running your own business, working with people, connecting with people. Yeah. This is what I love to do. Yeah. And the wheel just started going, and it just started going. And then, whoop, 5, 6, 7 years later, I'm doing exactly what I carved out for myself, those moments on that yoga mat in university.
Yeah. That's really cool. It sounds like for you, the missing element there was clarity. Like you knew where you wanted to be. You just, the in-between of how to get there was a little bit unclear. And you know what? I think clarity is something we're all missing nowadays. There's so much noise. Yeah.
Like I work in social media. I know how much noise there is. I know how much garbage there is on social media. And that's a real thing that in my industry, I do think social media does have a net negative impact, which sucks. I'm trying to make it less negative. And I think one of the impacts that it has is it just fills people with images, and they connect to these ideals and they don't know why. And that's not your belief. That's just something that you've absorbed. Yeah. So what do you actually believe as a person? I don't think enough people sit down with themselves in the dark. Yeah. Yeah. Preparing for this podcast, you asked me if I wanted to bring items to represent who I am and whatnot. And one of the things I brought is a snake plant behind me. And that's simply a simple, like snake plants, we have one here, represents protection, health, and resilience. And when I feel stuck, I go to nature. And nature, I receive a lot of clarity, and use the word time, like time with self. And I think that could be very scary for a lot of people. I remember reading this study. There was 2 different groups that had the option of, would you like to be with your thoughts for 10 minutes or would you like to receive 3 electric shocks? And more than 50% of the people chose the electric shocks. There's a fear of being with our thoughts. And maybe there's an opportunity to normalize all the stuff that comes up that is very uncomfortable. How do we normalize that? Create safe spaces for us to share, and then use that as a form of integration to maybe get more clarity or understand our next steps, like whatever that is.
So I think what you mentioned, your key theme was time with self. If we can encourage more people to quiet the noise and look inwards, we have all the answers within us. It's just skillfully drawing them out.
I also think it's a little bit of being okay to be uncomfortable.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
we talked about moralizing the bad me earlier.
Mhm.
I think people moralize feelings. Like anxiety is a bad feeling. It's just a feeling. It is just, I took a philosophy of emotions class.
Cool.
Which
That must have been interesting.
Oh my God, one of the best classes I've ever taken. A really great philosophy class. But one of the interesting things that we talked about is there's two branches of thought in that subject. Feelings are just physical responses from your body versus feelings are like something that creates a physical response in your body. And I found it very empowering for myself to be like, feelings are just a physical response for me. That's what I personally believe. Anxiety, my heart's beating faster. My chest feels tight. Do a chest opener. All of a sudden, my chest doesn't feel tight. That is not a negative thing to feel anxiety. It's just a response to your body. And I think we've moralized these emotions.
Oh, yeah.
And we were running away from discomfort.
I'm so glad you brought that up. You made me think when you were talking about the physiological experience with anxiety. You know what else feels that exact same way?
Excitement.
Yep.
Exact same.
So it's the same physiology. It's our brain that labels I'm anxious or I'm excited. Gratitude also feels that way too. Like it's very heart opening. That's why even when you said negative self-talk earlier, what I encourage my clients to see it as is just your self-talk. And is this self-talk serving you and your higher self, or is it not serving you and your higher self? So we can bring so much neutrality to the conversation. And I really think those small changes in the way we think and feel and speak has that massive ripple effect we're all looking for. Yeah.
Michelle, I always love talking to you.
Yeah. So open to where the conversation would go, and you're a great interviewer. And
Thank you.
I really hope for anyone who's listening, you're able to walk away with something tangible, because this was a very deep conversation and you asked awesome questions. So yeah, hopefully people walked away with some golden nuggets, and if not, you know where to connect with us.
On that note, Michelle, if you were to leave people with one thought, one question, something to ponder, what would you like to leave people with?
It's a classic end of podcast question that I didn't think about on my ride here. You have everything within you to be successful with your health. And perhaps maybe hanging around different people or surrounding yourself with a care team that can support you to get you where you want to be. And there's going to be people listening to this that are like, Laila, Michelle, I don't know where I want to be. And that's okay. Like, we don't have to have all the answers right now. Be loving to yourself, be kind, and always think of your higher self, because it wants the best for you, and ask for support along the way. We're not meant to do this stuff alone. Yeah, thank you all for listening too.
I love that, Michelle. You always have something so beautiful and succinct in the way that you... One of the other things I really love about the work that you do is you're able to take really big concepts and just make them really accessible and really non-scary and non-academic. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate
If someone
that.
wanted to work with you, work with Pivot Your Wellness, or just continue this conversation, where can they find you?
Best place would be my website, www.pivotyourwellness.com. That would be the best place. And I'm not too active on social media, so I would say let's kick it old school and do the email stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle. This was great.
Thank you, Laila.